Good evening, folks. Welcome to tonight's live stream. So we do have this aggressive downtrend, and I am inclined to believe the compression range will continue to be obeyed because the pivots are holding quite nicely on the 15-minute chart. So for those who don't know, the compression range is the current longest compressed period, all right, which is represented by this here, okay? So the theory is, as long as you have volatility overhead or distributional periods that are overexpanded in the higher periods, lower periods will not be able to expand beyond the outer extremities of those higher distributions. And I know that's a mouthful, but bear with me. Essentially, what we're saying is that until all this volatility overhead evaporates, it will be very difficult, or at least require excessive amounts of force in order to see trend continuation. What we're currently seeing, oh goodness, is the compression range holding quite nicely, right? Because we have a few pivots here. This guy here, this guy here, and then we have the swing low of the range and the swing high of the range. On yesterday's stream, we said the following. You essentially want to short the swing high of the range and long the swing low of the range. So it does seem like that bounce was very successful. Now, it does appear that we are rejecting from the 1.25 standard deviation of the CLCP, which is implied bearishness, okay? Because we have this plume of mass here, which technically has a mean reversion condition of its own on an even lower time frame. And if we activate the bullish mean reversion from this downward expansion, then we can safely bet on lateral trading inside that distribution, or we could be seeing a rejection off of that value, which is something we can check manually by looking at the 110 period, which we can load up now. All right, I'm going to plug 110 value in here. Beautiful. All right, it does appear that mean reversion condition is active. So that does leave me to believe that we are in a short-term bullish cycle, okay? So we had this bearish expansion here, and because we have returned inside of the compressionary period, in theory, we should stay inside the compressionary period until one of two conditions are met. Until we have returned to the mean, or more commonly, with the mean reversion being a byproduct, until this longest overexpanded period of 110 returns below the 0.7 value on wave PM, which be represented as a green value on the 3D wave PM, okay? So, I do believe Bitcoin is going to go sideways for the time being, as defined by a 100 period Bollinger Band on the 1.25 standard deviation. All right, currently those values are 8,500 and 8,025. Okay, so we should relatively respect those two bands as it does compress around price action, which could very well just trickle downward inside of the mean reversion condition, or it could shoot up, test up, who knows. And because we are seeing rejection from the 1.25 standard deviation of the CLCP, I am inclined just to bet that we're going to go sideways. And I know that's not a very exciting prediction, but really it makes sense, right? Where we have the compressionary period happening on the 100 longest overexpanded period, while the CLCP implies that we have slight downward trend. So all in all, not a very exciting chart to trade, not a lot of positions we can take right now because we have implied bearishness from the CLCP, but implied bullishness on the longest overexpanded period, which is the 110. So all in all, I'm just going to stay out of the market at the moment, especially with the Fear and Greed Index at a 12 right now. which implies extreme fear. All right. Last time we had extreme greed was, you're going to like this, this candle here. All right. Where we're at around a 96, if I recall correctly. And you can Google this for yourself, just fear and greed indicator for Bitcoin. Pretty useful for determining sentiment. Once you get into the extreme values, we do tend to see a brief violent reversal. However, trend is trend, and you should never bet against trend, especially when you have an apparent comprehensive net expansion, which in this case implies bearishness, right? We have every period on the wave PM expanding in the same direction, with essentially no volatility overhead, which we can really see quite clearly here on the 12-hour chart. Pretty much we should just expect trend continuation, and there's no reason to bet against it. Currently, we have a mean divergence condition active with a target at 7,400. And there is just free sailing for this new expansion. So all in all, I would be careful with any position other than attempting to find short entry. I don't particularly expect a significant reversal at this time, especially with all this bearish volume. We did have a long squeeze, just as we saw a previous short squeeze, right, where we tend to get super compressed ranges, and then when we break outside the range, stops beget stop losses, and the market runs wild in that direction before seeing a compressionary period and then trend resumption. I would not be surprised if we saw the same thing, where we saw a compressionary period and then trend resumption. So altcoins should do okay at this current time. Money does seem to be flowing back into them at the moment, but I would not attempt anything too aggressive for the time being. There still is a significant amount of risk. So, what's next? That's about it. All right. Let me check the YouTube comments real quick. Nothing. Cool, we're good. Love you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow at 1 p.m. MST. I promise to be on time. Ciao.